I'm reading from a poem that I recently wrote and was created by writing through two really lovely events I attended recently. The first being the SPT lecture by Jalal Tawfiq titled "I Have Something to Say, Silence Over, and I Am Saying It Thanks to Music Over." And that is poetry, as well as a screening of the dancer and choreographer Pina Bausch's Cafe Mueller. So they intersected really nicely, so that it became a two-part poem. The first written through the lecture, so all appropriated language, and then the second written through the screening of the film, and so focusing on the movement and choreography. So with that said, Death and Dance, Part 1. Emergent and present, formal and destructive, poking by illusion, of course, coming to know language and itself and the word to gain, in that space rearranged, given, present tense, social self. Withdraw, and after a while, everything came back, investigating collective contours, intuitive and sensitive, before one. Kindred intent, distracted, love dies while I tell you, while I poke you, while I poke holes, hello, an invitation, and most people can find the link these words, mainly if there is silence, or an encountering of silence, or different kinds, crossed once again, a few minutes, a few seconds. Ovation and tableau, this kind of silence, thinking about this kind of silence, not to be touching the objects, generating sound is not needed, a high sound, how we can have this sound, remains where witness was just witnesses, accompanied by music, the constant movement of lips, gestures, the situation of projection, a dead stop, dead still. Immobilization, they are not motionless, they are not spectators, they are in no way outside of time. Tableau admits the immobilized in the silence to make a silence. One need not fear it, not the absence of sounds. A number, one or more, not in but over, what can be saved, or who, or me. Appears silence, the interrupted, shielded and allowed, twice, releasing and released, motionless, and it turned out cunning, uncanny, or to listen. Fundamentally dying, dead, death, alive, shells of sequence. Is it fantastic, permeating the sequence, fully real, death, psychosis, complete attention to what is happening? Dead people, these dead people, you have no power whatsoever. Continues from the very beginning, not limited to being dead. It doesn't just matter as long as one is alive, as so far one is dead already. Mortality and sound, the case before that which will not come in the future, the act of forgetting, taking place, a tiny, uncanny sound, not any way a part of the world anymore. Death and Dance, Part 2. Using that to create movement, mining the actual, using that to create variations, several chairs, how and why, coming to, infusing with what was happening at the time, rooms and escape, to see it, to view it, a copying of rooms in the dark, barely visible steps, barely visible, finding a corner, indicating a turn, the light that happens upon opening a door, twice in the dark, two, darkness and light, what happens when one bears, and not to be alone in singular intimacy, and to be facing walls in a room, and to be facing away from walls of a room, a slow transformation of space, and then the rising, the shape of it as it enters, as endless escape, and this in reverse, furious stillness, the fury of approach, in the arms the way the body falls, about failure, about insanity, about witnessing, about loss, about having, about holding, about knowing or not, or remembering knowing, about death, about dying, about the shape and gestures of desire, about touch, about mourning, repetitive release, holding again, fury and dropping, a kiss. The way a foot looks when contorted a certain way, the way a back looks bent over a table, despair finds itself embodied, the confusion, exposing a breast in death, kiss and embrace, the insistence of a back bent over a table, chairs in a room, audible texture in the room, undressing in the light each step inside of it, re-entering desire, a gray room, being held above the ground, feeling the ground, again, this in reverse, replicating touch or just touching, a kiss, exertion of violence, tender fury, hand, crook of an elbow, looking away from the hand, alone, looking away from the crook of an elbow, brought together, alone, ghostly, and finding the way around a single chair in the open space.